Alright, what's going on, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages? It's been a while since I've said that intro. So today we are back after a long while with a quite different video. I've never done a video like this. This being more of an informative video, more fact-driven video. Regardless, today I'm gonna be talking about a band that I think is very underrated and I think just more people should know about. So that band being Cursed. I had a very big phase with this band. I'm not so much in it anymore, but still, I didn't see any videos like anywhere on YouTube talking about this band, and I feel like there should be at least one talking about the whole history of this band, because it's a whole trip, man, and I just think it's worth sharing, you know? I think it's worth making a video about, because sometimes you just gotta be the change you want to see in the world. Anyways, that's probably all I have to say for the intro, so I'm just gonna get straight into things. I'm gonna be putting some pictures and stuff of the band members and just pictures of the band while I talk about this history, and I hope I do a decent job. I have not done this before, so first time for everything. Let's do this. Alright, so formed in 2001, Cursed is a hardcore band from Canada. The members being the singer slash frontman Chris Callahan, the guitarist Christian McMaster, the bassist Radwan, I'm not the best with names, and then the drummer Mike. Little four-piece. So in their early stages, the band was spread out across Canada, some members living in one city and others in a different city. Despite the distance, they were able to get together for shows that they would do across Canada and just start building up a little buzz. This being around 2002. So they started building a buzz and just gaining momentum. That's when the bassist, Radwan, temporarily stepped away from the band, which called for bringing in a fellow named Tom Pirano, hope so, to handle bass duties. Radwan would return in 2003, this time as a second guitarist, ultimately making Cursed a five-piece. So now we get to their first album, which is conveniently titled One. It was recorded over the span of 5 days in October of 2002 with producer Kurt. I'm just gonna leave that last name be. And it was officially released on February 25th, 2003 on Death Wish Records. The album would be somewhat well received, 11 tracks, 32 minutes. Sonically, it's just a bombarding of blast beats and that straightforward, just metallic hardcore sound. It's nothing insane, but it's a nice debut album. Definitely sets the tone for their overall vibe. I would imagine they probably did a few shows for the release of One. I didn't really read too much into that, but I would assume they did a show or two. That brings us to their next album, which is, if you can guess it, it's titled Two. This would be my favorite album of theirs. Anyways, so they recorded their second album a year later in 2004. Their second album, Two, being released in early 2005. Within that span of time, Tom Pirano stepped back from the band and a fella named Dan Dunham took over on bass. This time with the record, they took the producing matters into their own hands, the last record being produced by Kurt, like I mentioned before. But ultimately, doing the production themselves was for the better, in my opinion. And like I said, this album is my favorite of the trio they released. It's just a very raw and aggressive work of art, at times also being like atmospheric. And overall, the album just has sort of a creepy vibe to it, complemented by the artwork. But yeah, 11 tracks, 34 minutes, and just a fantastic experience for anybody fond of that gritty, old-school, hardcore, crust punk metal. It's hard to label these guys as just one genre of metal, so honestly, fuck it. Starts with a build-up of a track that is Fatalist, which is a nice suspenseful experience in the first half before just smacking you in the face with their chaotic sound. The title track is a little minute-and-a-half soft piano piece, the rest of the album being a bombardment of just dark aggression, with the exception of the outro, which is also a piano. Quite the fitting instrument to complement the eeriness of this album. The fifth track, The Void, was my most streamed song in 2022, and these guys were my fourth most streamed artist in 2022, and much of that was thanks to this album. My favorite tracks being The Void, like I mentioned, Head of the Baptist, Old Money, Hell Comes Home, banger album. And The Void being my favorite track actually has a music video. It's not on YouTube, it can only be found on Vimeo. If you like dark, groovy, speedy, pissed off metal, I would highly recommend this song, this album, this band. So now brings us to their third and final album, which, if you could guess, is titled 3. So after releasing a little picture disc EP, Blackout at Sunrise, in 2007, the band would start cooking up their third LP in 2008. Recorded over the span of 6 days in Toronto's Hala Music Studio, released in 2008 on Goodfellow Records. In the guitarist's words, they spent a bunch of days recording it, took a break, then mixed it. The album itself starts with a compilation of eerie sound clips, a little unsettling overall, but hey, great art does that sometimes. After the eerie intro, it gets heavy and fast and speedy and angry and nice with night terrors, taking a slower paced approach with songs like Friends in the Music Business. Apparently post-metal was spreading in the underground at this time, and they just kind of cherry-picked at that while still maintaining their unsettling, aggressive nature, keeping that slower pace with the title track and the 4-minute track after, before picking back up into the speediness with leading tracks, ends with a 7-minute instrumental. Overall, some would argue this is their heaviest album, and where it's not heavy, it's dark and eerie and melodic and all that fun stuff. In the words of this one reviewer on SputnikMusic.com, it's the album of a band that impossibly seemed to sense their own impending end and accordingly lashed out spasmodically at everybody and everything in their path. In the liner notes, after the band members and recording information are listed, a simple inscription was written almost prophetically, a fitting eulogy to be chiseled onto the headstone of one of music's hardest working bands. Goodbye, cruel world. Man, that was something. Definitely a solid effort to go out on, which we will get to why they're no longer together soon. So the guitarist developed carpal tunnel syndrome. That put the band on hold for a few months while he recovered. Took about 5 months. After all that cleared up, they would hit the road in support of 3, doing 6 weeks of different DIY shows around South Ontario, seeing if the guitarist would be fit for a longer tour somewhere down the line. With all that said, now we get to the fun stuff, which is the end of this band. There's not much more info out there on what happened after that string of DIY shows, but one thing is certain, they took a trip over to Europe to do some more shows. This tour, however, would be their last, reasons we will get to in a minute. The release show for their third album would be in a sold-out Lee's Palace in Ontario on March 22nd. Fast forward to May, they would hit Europe for another tour. One of the shows being at a festival in Belgium on May 10th, another show being in the Netherlands the next day. It was seeming to be a nice little Europe run, until the last day of the tour, May 19th, finding themselves in Amsterdam to play at the Bitterzoe, which would end up being their final show. On May 22nd, vocalist Chris Callahan took to the band's blog to announce they were robbed on the last morning of the tour, losing their passports, all of their money and tour expenses from within a secure building in a German squat. The initial statement reads, it's a little wordy, so bear with me. Yeah, you heard. Apparently it gets even worse. That's all I know or even want to know for now. We got robbed at the very end of tour in a totally unreal, extremely sketchy series of events that still makes no sense at all. Only leads to paranoia, anger, and a total loss of faith. Passports, money, all the costs of tour. Either way, whoever did it, it was a bullet in the head. The end of the line. A sudden and totally fucked up way for it to end, which I know will be fitting when I look back on it. All we could do was play the show badly and go our ways with whatever money we could muster. I hitched a ride back to Prague with Thomas. Since I couldn't do a fucking thing about it, I'm gonna hang out with my girl and friends, stare at some mountains and try not to think about it. Needless to say, all outstanding plans are off. All this shit aside, thanks to everyone that helped out and traveled from all over for the shows on this tour. All the kids and bands we played and stayed with. Minus a few fucked up shows, it was probably the best tour we ever had. Thanks everyone for your good wishes. I'll elaborate when I'm home next week. For now, yes it's true and yes it's over. But I'd imagine being a fan of theirs at that time and seeing that would be pretty wild. Seeing as they were seeming to be reaching new heights, just about to finish what in the vocalist's words was probably their best tour yet. And as he mentioned, he did indeed elaborate a week later in a fairly lengthy post on the band's blog, giving everyone a clear insight onto what happened on that last day of tour. The post reads, it's also a little wordy, so bear with me. It's a week later, we're all back in Ontario on tack now. Thanks for everyone's help and concern. Sorry to have been away from computers, but my mind was blown and I think that goes for all of us. I'm just starting to get back to everyone one at a time. It's like a sudden death that you can't wrap your head around. It hits you from a different angle every few hours. Anger, grief, frustration, suspicion, paranoia, futility, in that exact order, and repeat. It's been like that since that morning. It was the best of times, it was the worst of times. Mulheim, Germany, the very last morning of the tour. And finally, a real good squat show where the promoter, Jan, and everybody from the place was nothing but great to us. Sleeping in a room on the second floor of a locked building on a compound that nobody lives on. Thomas is outside in the van. The 4 of us and Sam are set up in the band room. There are a lot of little details that keep going through my mind, like the candle I lit in the room. I'm the last one to sleep, washing some socks and underwear in the bathroom sink, having had no clean clothes for a good week, hoping they can dry by morning, which is only a few hours off. I take a bath in a gnarly bathtub. It is late and there's no one there to care, and it seems like a good enough way to wait for the ringing in my ears to subside enough to sleep. I wring out the wet clothes, go back in the room and hang them up on a bunk bed by the light of the candle that is still burning. Blow it out. No trace of a bad vibe. Remember thinking how nice it is that no one is snoring. Fall asleep. Next thing is voices shouting, morning light, and the whole thing. Sam's bag is missing, him asking if we're pranking him. Christian's bag is also missing, found outside the window, tossed and pissed in with selective items missing. Sam's bag having contained all the tour's money in cash and several passports, not found. The formality of German cops, joking to Jan and the squat kids, what do you want me to do, take DNA samples? I get it, it doesn't matter, it's a formality. It's already over by the time we know what has happened. Car ride, brooding, tension, cursing, questions racing through my head, such as who the fuck would go to all that trouble and then hang out tossing a bag right outside the building when they may have just woken us up. If they had to break a lock or force the door, it would have made enough noise that one of us upstairs or Thomas in the van just a few feet away would have heard it. No signs of tampering to the lock or door. How could anyone with the key have been in there? Was it before or after I went to bed, etc.? The list goes on, but none of it is tangible. Nothing you can point at except that it has happened and everything is suddenly over. We get to Arnhem to reflections. Johan and Susan are being amazing about it, pragmatic even in the moment's chaos. We had decided on the spot that that was it. End result is someone did it and got away with it, and the hole it left us in happened to be the last straw. If it had been a few years and a few hundred shows ago, it might have worked otherwise, but for our reasons we are taking the hint and deciding to trust the Reaper on this one. If there's any news or plans that come up, we'll make them formal, but for now, we all need some time and space. There's been overwhelming support from all of you. It's encouraging, it's genuine, it's incredible. And at the same time, it's equally maddening that all their sincerity and good wishes are a compensation for the one motherfucker that killed it. It's hard to let that part go. As for Curse, this spring shows were awesome. We gotta play the shit out of Southern Ontario. All the places we cut our teeth on. All the basements, record stores, halls and clubs in our own stomping grounds. All the awesome and energetic kids and bands in our own backyard. Don't let up. It was a high note to go out on. Of course it would have been ideal to know it was coming, or would it? There's a lot more to be said. It's still getting resolved, so stay tuned. I have a ton of photos from the whole tour. I'm going to try to upload them somewhere online and make links here. Also, our friend Carol made a video to the Void that is fucking awesome, and I'm going to upload it here in the next few days. So keep posted, and hey, I know it's inevitable, but please don't try to discourage the internet rumor mill. I don't care to hear your theories. They won't be anything that hasn't already been doing circles in my head, but I hear it's getting a little out of hand. Unless you were in that room, this here is the best information you're gonna get, and like us, the most anyone can do is speculate. It's a big fat question mark, but again, thanks to everybody. So that's a lot of words, yet a very insightful and detailed description of what all happened. The more details the better if you ask me. There will be another blog post about 9 days later, sharing some old pictures sent to them by a friend from an earlier tour, as well as a music video for The Void, and just giving some brief thoughts on the whole matter. No major updates here, but the next one would come 2 months later, being much shorter than the giant one I just read. So this post reads, okay, so it's a few months later and nothing new is going to come of this. No more resolution and no further plans, thanks to everybody that helped us out. If you want to keep on what we're all up to, there's still Crux of Ox, Quest for Fire, Burning Love, and High Anxiety going on. I was hoping to make photo albums of the tour. There's about 1,200 pictures to go through, and when I do, I'll put links up here. GFR will still be reissuing 2 on vinyl. I'll be doing the BBC Sessions 7-inch in the near future on High Anxiety. And other than some posts sharing pictures or new merch, there wouldn't be too much else said in regards to Cursed. The aforementioned BBC Sessions 7-inch would be released on January 6, 2010 on High Anxiety, being recorded live in the UK for radio during their last tour. But after all that, you could be wondering, where are the band members now? What are they up to? You know, what are they doing nowadays? And well, as far as Chris, the vocalist, he continued to tour and perform with Burning Love in Mature Situations, also running the vinyl-only High Anxiety label. He formed Sect in 2016, composed of Andy Hurley on drums, James Chang and Scott Krause on guitar, and Ian Edwards on bass. As far as Mike goes, he joined Quest for Fire and was a touring drummer for Pink Mountain Tops. As far as Dan goes, he continued to play in Crux of Ox and in Skull and Limitoids. As far as Radwan goes, He opened Hotel du Tango recording studio in Montreal, partnering with Godspeed You Black Emperor and Constellation Records, and continues with this performance art project Jerusalem in My Heart. And then Christian McMaster, other than he played guitar in the band before Curse, The Swarm, there's not much I could find about Homie's whereabouts after the whole thing, so who knows? And just like that, that is the history of Cursed. Like I said at the very beginning, this is a super underrated band that I just don't think is talked about enough, so I wanted to talk about them. Now, it's almost 1 in the morning, so I'm probably going to wrap this up. But if you guys enjoyed this video and you want to keep up to date with me, I make music, and I'll put a link to my channel in the description if you want to check out like my music channel and stuff. No worries if you don't, but just throwing that out there. Anyways, let me know how I did in the comments. How I did is just for an informative video. I know at times it might have seemed a little just me like reading words, but some of them posts were long. Like, what do you want me to do? Hey man, I tried my best. Yeah, it's almost 1 in the morning. I'm probably gonna wrap this up, but I appreciate you guys watching. Time to hit that outro. Hope you enjoyed the video. You can leave a like if you did, comment if you did, subscribe if you're new, and yeah, I'm gonna stop talking. Hope you have a good rest of your day / night, and it's been Tiller. I'm out. Peace.